Welcome to the Tuesday, September 24, 2024 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of the Town of Raymond. The Zoning Board of Appeals will come to order. The board does have a quorum. I'm now going to do a roll call. David Murch.
Tom Hennessy.
Pete Lockwood.
Fred Miller.
Greg Dean, our vice chair, is unable to attend tonight. This is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically votes to go into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all of the exhibits that are presented. Please notify the chair if you are unable to see or hear. The board works from a published agenda and will be considering tonight's items in the following order. Number 1, call to order. Number 2, approval of minutes from August 27, 2024. Number 3, old business, administrative appeal for 36 Merch Landing Road. Number 4, new business, administrative appeal for 32 Shore Road. Number 5, code enforcement officer communications. And then finally, number 6, adjournment. In each instance, the burden is upon the applicant to demonstrate compliance with the provisions of the applicable ordinances or state law. After the board votes on the merits of each application, it will prepare a written notice of decision. Because the notice of decision may substantially affect any appeals rights, and also as a matter of courtesy, the board asks that those attending the meeting with regards to a specific application not leave until the board has completed its discussion. Generally speaking, appeals from adverse decisions must be filed with the Superior Court as otherwise provided by law within 45 days of this board's decision. Also, to be certain that you preserve your individual rights to file any such appeal, you must be certain that the board's record evidences your appearance this evening in opposition and the basis for your opposition. All persons speaking, including representatives of the applicant and members of the public, are asked to stand at the microphone, to sign the speaker sheet, state their name, address, and affiliation with the application, being for, opposed, or neutral. All persons speaking shall address all remarks or questions to the chair. This meeting is not over until the board has formally adjourned. Any discussion not included on the meeting agenda or accepted by the board is to be held until after adjournment or conducted outside the meeting room. So, first up is approval of the minutes from August 27, 2024. Have you all had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Can I get a motion for approval of the minutes?
I motion approval of minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Do we have any further comments? All those in favor of approval? Unanimous. Old business, administrative appeal for 36 Merch Landing Road. Applicants Karen and Bill Burke, location 36 Merch Landing Road. Owner O'Connor. Description, administrative appeal of a permitted second dock, permit number 2024146. This is on the table. Do I have a motion to take this off of the table?
I motion to take it off the table.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. So I did receive on September 11, 2024, Sandy Fredericks received an email from legal representatives for the Burkes. They have requested that we table this matter until the next meeting. The reason for the tabling is that they are currently in discussions with the O'Connors with regards to this issue, so they're looking to come to a resolution that doesn't require the need for this administrative appeal. As a result of this request on the 11th, we subsequently canceled their site walk, which was scheduled for 9 o'clock on the 14th. Yeah, so if we do decide to retable this, we will bring it up for our next meeting on October 29th, and we will schedule a site walk for the October 19th, Saturday. Chris, do you have any concerns with tabling this for another month?
Nope.
Okay.
I have no concerns.
Any comments at all? Thoughts?
No comments.
Can I get a motion to table this appeal until the next meeting?
Nope.
David,
Yes.
you might want to wait a moment on that because the attorneys for both parties are here on Zoom.
Oh, did not realize.
That's why I'm telling you, sir.
Hello, everybody. I'm hiding behind my mugshot. Sorry.
So,
I
who
don't have
is
any
this?
objection to the way this is going, Kelly, if you don't. This seems like a reasonable path.
Yeah, just so the board is aware, Attorney Howe and I arranged a meeting between our respective clients, and that meeting proved to be both productive and cordial. And there were some very good discussions about potential resolutions. Attorney Howe and I are working on taking care of that, getting that documented. It is our hope that we will report back to you that the Burke's appeal has been withdrawn. At this time, of course, we're not withdrawing it. It needs to remain live. And so we appreciate the fact that the board postponed the site walk, and we are requesting that the board table this until your next meeting, again, in the hopes of delivering some good news to you.
Sounds good.
And for what it's worth, I can confirm, at least for our side, that a site walk on the 19th and hearing on the 29th would be just fine for the O'Connors if it came to that. I think the hope is obviously that we don't ever get there.
Okay. Mr. McDonald, you're good with the site walk on the 19th as well, if it comes to that?
Hopefully. I have no idea what my client's schedule looks like, but we will make it happen if it's necessary.
Okay. Well, I guess with this, I mean, we're considering tabling it, yes. But what I don't want to do is to continuously postpone a site walk. I still, if this is still an open issue, I want to work towards getting this resolved from the appeal perspective. So I don't want to sort of just continuously postpone. So I would prefer to hear from you, yes, we're good to go on the 19th, or no, we don't want to do a site walk on the 19th.
Chair, we are good to go for the 19th.
Thank you. And I apologize for not noting that both of you are here on Zoom. It was my understanding that neither of you were going to be present tonight, so I apologize. And that was not intended to be a slight on either one of you. So,
No offense taken. Happy to blend into the background.
well, very good. So we have our motion, we have our seconds, we've heard from the attorneys. Any further discussion on this? No. Okay, all those in favor of tabling until the next meeting? Unanimous. Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
New business, administrative appeal for 32 Shore Road, applicant Sheena Joe Randall, location 32 Shore Road. Description, administrative appeal of a notice of violations issued on August 7, 2024 for installation of a dock and shed without permit. So our board did do a site walk on this property on September 14th. Tom Hennessy has come up with a site walk report, which I will go ahead and have him read now.
Okay. Zoning Board of Appeals site walk report on September 14th, 2024. The ZBA conducted a site walk of 32 Shore Road, Raymond, Maine, belonging to Sheena Joe Randall in consideration of her administrative appeal of a notice of violation for installation of a dock and shed without permits. Attendees were from the ZBA, David Murch, Peter Blackwood, Fred Miller, Tom Hennessy. Other attendees, code enforcement, Jason Williamson, and the applicant, Sheena Joe Randall, Judy and Doug Morrill, Dennis Martin, Teresa Ellis, Peter and Sue Slavinsky. Site walk started 10:10 a.m. First reviewed the 32 Shore Road property. Began with a review of the property and location of shed. Property includes a 2-story garage with a large concrete slab foundation attached to the left, viewing from the street of the garage. The shed is located to the far left of the property and appeared to be new. Ms. Randall stated it was a 10 by 20 shed, was installed on skids in November of 2023. Ms. Randall also stated that her original plan was to locate the shed on the opposite side of her property, but she decided to install it on the left side instead. Property markers were visible and rough measurements were taken to verify setbacks for the shed. The rear of the shed was approximately 17 feet to the sideline. The front of the shed was approximately 15 feet to the sideline. Then we progressed down the right-of-way and the dock. We walked the 10-foot wide right-of-way to the lake and saw the large boulder at the lakeside. The aluminum dock was also viewed by climbing on the boulder. Site walk was completed at 10:30 a.m. Respectfully submitted, Tom Hennessy, ZBA member. Note, these notes are reflections but are not factual findings made by the board.
Good. Fred, Pete, any corrections that you would see or want anything added? Yeah. I want to get it officially entered into the record, so I'm going to ask for a motion to get this officially entered.
I make a motion to put it in the official record.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. So, Sheena Joe, I know you're here tonight. We essentially have two issues at hand. The notice of violation for the shed, notice of violation for the dock. Two separate issues to be addressed tonight. What I'd like to do is first have our discussions with regards to the shed. And the way that will work is you will present to us your case for having this appeal. Then I will see what Chris has to say with regards to this as well. And then is there anybody here tonight, either on Zoom or in the audience, that would be that considers themselves to be an owner to this right-of-way?
Can you hear me?
I see Ryan Martin lit up. Yes.
Yeah. I'm at 35 Shore Road.
And you would be considered an owner to this right-of-way?
Yes, sir. My wife is actually the one on the deed, but she's picking up my son at football. We own it together, but officially she's the one that owns it.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is when the time comes, I'm going to give Sheena Joe, I apologize, an opportunity to speak with regards to the shed. Chris, an opportunity to speak with regards to the shed. Then we will transition to the right-of-way property. I'm going to then give, again, Sheena Joe a chance to speak on this issue. I will then transition to yourself. If you would like to have opportunity to speak on this issue, you can at that time. And then I will transition over to Chris. Once everybody has done having their opportunity to address this issue, we will then open up to public comment. I do see some other people on Zoom, people here in the audience, so if you wish to speak with regards to this appeal, you will have an opportunity to as well. And then we'll close public comment, and then the board will review the appeal. So does that all make sense, Brian?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So, Sheena Joe, if you want to go ahead and come up to the podium there. Please make sure to log your appearance. So there on there's a sign-in sheet.
First, I want to thank the board for their time this evening. My name is Sheena Joe Randall. I live at 32 Shore Road, Raymond, Maine, and I'm actually the appellant in this case. I was issued a notice of violation on 8/7/24 from an inspection that was done from your code enforcement officer, I think in late June 28th. And in that violation, it stated that I put a dock in the water without a permit, as well as he noticed there was a shed on my property without a permit. Upon receiving the violation, I went to the town hall and filled out, actually on the computer, I filled out 2 applications for shed permits as instructed by the violation. and took them to the town hall, one for a shed that's not there yet. And in the midst of looking and going over my paperwork, I noticed on my original plan, my original plot plan for my addition and my groundwork and where my septic works were going to be and my tanks and all that other stuff, that there was a shed on that plot plan. It didn't say the size of the shed at that time, but I noticed in my notes on the side of the plot plan, it stated in the square footage that I paid for my permit, it was a 10 by 17. So when I went to buy my shed, I bought it. It was handmade. It was done by Hickory over in Cornish, and I had it built to a 10 by 20 to fit my needs, and built on skids so it could be moved in and out as easy as possible. I did not want it built on site because it is over near my well, and I don't know what was going on there. So just in case I had to move it, did all the measurements, put it in place, and that was. It came in November. And I guess Chris had noticed it, and I didn't realize I had violated any ordinance because I thought it was on skids, and somewhere on wheels or skids, it didn't need permits. So I filled out the appropriate paperwork, and I have not heard anything from either one of those, and that's the shed. It's there. I think it's within my setbacks. I think everything was measured properly. And it was on my original plot, so I don't know if it's included in the $1,595 I paid for my building permits. But I haven't heard back from the second shed application either.
So you did submit.
Oh yeah.
After the fact.
Oh yeah, right afterwards, because I was going by what I thought at the time, and I know that there was some rules that were changed. I believe in June, your ordinances were updated, and I haven't had the chance to look over the fine print of all of those, but I didn't remember it being on the plot plan until I actually saw it on the plot plan. And I think you have a picture of the plot plan in the paperwork regarding that first one.
So I did make a request, and we all should have a copy of the permit application that you had, not the one you just recently submitted for the shed specifically.
No, the original.
Yeah, the 2022-113.
Yeah. I think in some of this madness that I did take a picture of that original plot and older pictures of when I was creating the plot itself.
Now, I have reviewed.
Oh yeah, I have it right here.
What was provided with this permit.
You'll see the September 5th letter back to you. It's actually attached to that building permit at the end of that submittal. My building permit for the property, and then the plot plan.
Yeah, what I'm not able to determine, I don't know if it's because of the scan, but I do not see on the permit application a request for a shed, nor do I see the shed on the plot plan itself.
Yeah, if you look right down here where it shows you the gravel drive, where the gravel drive would
Yeah.
be, there's a little box and it's noted shed right next to it. And then next to that was the septic field. May not have come out on the photocopies.
This is on the building permit, Dave?
Yeah, this is with the actual permit itself, although I do believe it got the
Which is
plot
the
plan.
backside?
Yes.
Is that, we talking about the backside?
It would actually look like it'd be this one. I know there's 3 of them there. The actual,
This
yeah.
one here, right?
Yeah, the actual survey plot plan.
Is there any indication on the permit application itself, not with regards to a shed though, the request for that structure?
I don't see it noted on the actual application. Everything was done individual, the septic system, shed, you know, I don't see it noted,
Yep.
other than just, because we did have to go over it, because in the beginning, I had a balcony on the front of the building, and I had to change the plans at that. I had a little 6-foot balcony off the second floor, and I didn't have the setback for that.
Hey, Dave, on the third page here, the second one down, it says shed, then a square, then an RV. Is that part of the permit? You see the first one says 28, 36, looks like, I assume building. It said 10, 17, then it looks like it says shed with a square box with RV.
Same thing.
Unless, okay.
Make sure I'm looking at what you're looking at.
This piece right here. This, I think it's the
gotcha.
third piece of, Chris, is this the third piece of the permit, of the permit application?
That wasn't part of the original.
So this isn't, this wasn't filled in with this?
No.
So there's nowhere in here that says,
Correct.
these are the only 2 pages that actually go to the permit, is that correct?
Correct.
So this is
What I
something that was
gave
made
you was
afterwards?
what was submitted at the time of the application. That's what is in our system.
Okay.
And the purpose of me moving the shed is when my septic field came down. It didn't leave me enough yard space on that particular side that I wanted to keep, so I moved it to the other side.
Yep. Ed or Pete or Tom, do you have any questions at this point for Sheena Joe?
I do, I think.
That's with regards
I'll
to
let
the
them
shed,
go
though.
first.
Regards to the shed,
Yeah,
though, won't we?
yep.
Okay. Whoever wants to, and
You guys want to go first? Fred, Pete, anything?
I guess it's just one of the things that comes, you know, that was highlighted is that it went from 10 by 17 to 10 by 20. So I don't know if that's something that automatically gets covered by the permit, or if that's something that needs to be corrected.
Mr. Chair, do you want me to respond to these questions now or wait till the end?
I want to see if these guys have any questions specific to Sheena Joe, and then I'll have you respond.
Sheena, Joe, you had also mentioned that the skids was something that you thought allowed you to build it because it wouldn't
You know,
be
in the
on the roof.
beginning-
I mean,
In the
is-
beginning, when I was designing my project, because I've done most of the design myself, because I needed to keep all the utilities across the back of the property. In designing it, it could very well be the 10 by 17 is what I thought, because my portable shed is a 10 by 17. But when I went to make the purchase, they don't build them 10 by 17. So I got the 10 by 20. So, and your question again, I'm sorry.
So the reason for putting the skids on, you thought that allowed you to
Right, in the
build it.
beginning, I was noticing.
Did you find that written anywhere, or?
Well, I thought I saw it in the ordinances somewhere. It's just a small, on structures, outside structures. That if it was on wheels or skids, it didn't need a permit. I can't tell you where I saw that. It could refer to ice houses. It could refer to a lot of things.
Right. And when it's Chris's turn, maybe he can help us, because I couldn't find it looking through the ordinances myself. Did you really have any intentions of ever moving that shed? I mean,
It's where I would like it to be. Because when the addition goes up, it leaves me, it's in a spot where the privacy comes into play for the addition. I mean, the project is probably 50% done at this time,
right.
you know. And I did put in a permit application for an additional shed, which will go on the other side to replace the portable one that's there. And that's being built under a 10 by 16. But that was a whole different application, whole new application I
Right.
dropped off that I have not heard back from.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yep.
And I just want to verify, is this the permit application? Okay.
Without looking at it, I can't tell you if it's the same thing that, if it's in your packet that I submitted to you guys
Oh,
on
yeah, of
request.
course, yeah, please.
Yeah. I believe you have the correct one.
And can I ask you a question?
Of course you can.
This stuff here lined up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't?
So that's a no.
Yeah, but does that mean that that's onto this, or is that not onto this?
That would be, she was probably, I don't know.
So you
You'd have
don't know
to
if that was
ask her.
in afterwards, or if that
You'll
was-
have to ask her that question, and I'll address that when I speak.
Okay, just so you know what I'm talking about, Dave. This is the one I just showed him, and what I'm seeing here is, but we
Yep.
don't know how that got written.
Okay. Sheena Joe, I'm going to give you a copy of this permit, that way you know what.
I think I know what you're talking about. It was trying to come up with the,
I want you to be able to
Sorry, Fred.
Yeah.
have specifically what we're looking
So I'm talking about Peter on this one here, just had to look at it, make sure there's no permit.
oh, yes, yes,
Handwritten
yes.
here along here, but on the bottom of the shed, there's
Thank you.
her handwriting. If that was part of the permit.
Which is interesting, yes. Here, it has 120, but then 200 below it as well.
Did you have a question for Sheena Joe, Fred, with regards to that?
No, it was more for, I wanted to know, because Chris had mentioned that the other one I was looking at was not the permit that was issued. I wanted to make sure this was the one, and when I saw that it had that shed written on it, if that was something that was put on by when we gave him the permit, or was that something that was added?
It was on there when I submitted this.
I would agree with that statement.
That it was on there?
Yep. And
Okay.
I'll explain when I.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
Tom?
I understand you believe that your setbacks are correct, but they're not. So, and the setbacks have been in place for a decade or two, at least. The side setback is 20 feet. The front setback is 30 feet. And based on this survey, it says you have 6 feet beyond your garage to get to your property line. 6 feet closer to shore, towards Shore Road.
I know the garage has a setback to 6 feet from the CMP easement, correct?
Well, it's not the CMP easement, it's Shore Road right-of-way. This little path of Shore Road might be 15 feet wide, but the right-of-way for the road is 50 feet. So all those trailers and everything else you have parked is in the right-of-way of the Shore Road. You don't own that property.
This sounds like a whole different discussion, because I've talked to CMP about the easement and who has rights to it. And I've talked to DOT regarding,
I'll let Chris
yeah.
pick.
No,
when he
I've
gets-
I've gone down this avenue with the Department of Transportation, and it's not a town-approved road, so it's, in the CMP easement cannot be considered part of the road. So
I'll
it's
let
a whole
Chris
different discussion.
pick it up when it's his turn. I'm just trying to tell you my opinion.
Right.
So, and as Pete said, the size is larger than anything that was in
I mean,
writing.
if that's the case, Shore Road's got a big problem, it not being 50 feet wide.
The
Seriously.
road does not have, it has a right-of-way to be within the 50 feet,
Right,
like a lot of other camp roads around
right. No, I see
this
that.
town. Okay.
But
I guess-
just for the record, I have gone over this with DOT, and I have gone over this with with CMP, so this is a whole different,
No,
this is,
I think you need to have the discussion with Chris. He's the representative for the town.
Chris has had plenty of opportunities to have discussions with me.
And if there are any other buildings or sheds on the property that do or don't have permits, then that's another potential violation that Chris can talk to. So, other than that, I guess my question I'll take up with Chris when it's his turn.
Okay, Chris, what would you have for us to hear?
All right, so the notice of violation is for a new shed installed on the property without the proper permits, plain and simple. So what you need to do to get a permit for a shed, if it's new, whether it's bigger or a shed that's moved, A, you need a plot plan. You need to show that you meet the setbacks from the right-of-way, as Tom described it, not the road, but the right-of-way.
The CMP
She-
right away.
He needs to have a chance to speak on her interpretation.
She mentioned that she had an existing shed of approximately 120 feet. The note that Fred asked about, typically when somebody applies for a expansion in the shoreline zone, we look at many factors: how it's going to be built, whether it meets the setbacks, whether it meets the impervious area as prescribed by the ordinance. The ordinance only allows a lot to be developed in the shoreline zone by 15% of impervious. When somebody applies for a permit, they generally make notation like the one that Sheena made on her permit, that she had an existing driveway. She had an existing building. She was going to do the addition. She shows those calculations. She has a temporary canvas-type shed that's on the property, and I am really not sure what I'm not the only code officer in Raymond. At the time, Alex was doing reviews. So we both look at these permits, and we look at setbacks, the impervious area, existing conditions. So the survey showed some notation on there, like Fred pointed out, it had some existing conditions. I did not get any information about a shed, new shed, that was 200 square feet or whatever it is. I don't have any information whether it met the setbacks. It wasn't figured into the calculation for her permit, which was based on square footages of the addition and the renovations to the garage to make it a single-family dwelling. So as far as the DOT, the DOT has no jurisdiction on a private road. DOT has jurisdiction on state roads, and that's it. The town has rights to enforce our ordinance on private streets, public streets, but this isn't a public road for the town of Raymond. It's private, just like the one that Tom and I live on Haskell Avenue. We live in an area that has a 12 to 16 foot road somewhere in that 50-foot right-of-way. Same thing that Tom was referring to. We live with that. CMP has no jurisdiction on buildings or things in that right-of-way. They have an overhead easement for their lines, or underground, depending on the situation. So, you know, as far as Tom's comment about other NOVs on the property, we're not here to talk about those tonight. We're just here to talk about a shed and a dog. So if in fact there are other violations on the property, that would be something that I could look in after this appeal, but not tonight, if that's fair enough. I'll let it go at that, and she can respond accordingly.
Do you guys have any immediate questions for Chris or Jason? Would you?
So I guess my only question is, so as you look at this permit, there is no permit for a shed. That
No,
shed that we see in there is
absolutely
just
not.
showing that she had,
If there was.
Was it 120
It would have
foot
been in
shed
the
that was
description that
already
she would
there
have
at
had to
one point.
pay for the
Right.
square footage of the new shed.
okay,
And which would have been included in the permit fee, which it wasn't.
right, which makes sense.
If there was
This was
some
talking about the shed that was
misunderstanding on her
already there.
part, that's why I asked her to do an after-the-fact permit as part of the resolution. She still gets to have an appeal, and I'm not going to act on a permit while it's going through the appeals process. So as soon as this appeals board meeting's over, I'll address her concerns about the shed. Basically, all I'm going to need is a plot plan showing it meets the setbacks, and she can have a permit if it meets the impervious area as well. She's got to be less than 15% lot coverage. If she does that, she'll get a permit. End of story. But as of today, as of when the NOV went out, there was no permit.
Okay.
Do you guys have any other questions for Chris at this point?
I guess one quick question is, if it currently isn't within the setback requirements,
It's a
it's going to be
violation.
moved.
It's a violation.
Right. Okay.
Either needs to be moved or removed.
Sheena Joe, did you have anything you wanted to add, given that?
My
Chris was-
understanding, my setback was 15 feet side to side, 30 to the front, 30 to the back, so, or 20 to the front at the time and 30 to the back. I have it written in the older notes of the home plans.
Yep. And I'll take a moment, because as I've gone through some of the information that you provided to us, and you just made the comment, it's your understanding. So when you say it's your understanding, it would be good for us to know specifically what ordinance or statute you're referring to, so. that
And
we
I
can-
don't have that information duly respected. I don't have that information in front of me.
Okay.
Okay, I truly thought I met the setbacks for my shed.
Yep. And that's
So
fine.
if it
I
has to
don't
be
mind,
moved,
I don't
then
mind
it
you
needs
saying
to
that
be
it was
moved.
your understanding, but for us
Right.
to actually consider it, we need to know specifically what it is we need to consider.
No, you're saying it needs to be 20 feet from the sides and 30 feet from the front?
That is not us. It would, whatever our ordinance is saying, Chris
Is that
would
what
be
the
the one to
ordinance says,
speak
Chris?
specifically to
The
that.
ordinance says 30 feet from the front property line and 20 feet from the side and 30 in the rear.
Okay, well, I got the rear. I got 2/3 of an acre there, so I'm not going to worry about that. So we have 20 feet from the sides and 30 feet from the front. And that's 30 feet from my 6-foot setback grandfathering of the front of my building, correct?
No,
My garage is 6
it's
feet from
from
the
your
property
property
line.
line,
Okay. so
which is the
30
right of
feet
way.
from the property line, well, from property line.
And don't forget the 15% lot coverage.
Well, I have 2/3 of an acre there. I don't,
Well, we don't know until you give us the figures.
you don't know I have 2/3 of an acre, is that what you're saying?
I didn't say that.
Oh. Because these figures
So,
here
well,
was 22.
Sheena Joe, let's
Yes.
go ahead and leave the specifics to an after-fact permit for
Okay.
after this meeting.
All right, so is he requesting me, is he requesting me to do another application for the shed?
At this point, we're still considering your appeal. So if we find in your favor, then there's no reason for you to have to submit an after-the-fact.
Well, respectfully, it appears that I'm wrong on my setbacks.
Well, and I will respectfully say the board hasn't ruled on it yet,
Okay.
so. I mean, Chris has his opinion, and that's fine, he should, but it's not his opinion tonight that is going to make this decision. It will be the board's collective decision as to whether Chris has erred in his decision for a notice of violation or not. So we'll decide collectively as a group to that.
Okay, so on my checklist of things that I put down, these totals here, was the existing building of 1,008 square feet. And then the addition was 576 plus 144 respectfully. Then the porch, the back porch was 192. The grill patio was 144. 16 was a fireplace foundation. These are all part of the plans to finish the building. 96 square feet for a walkway and 120 square feet for a shed, which totaled up at the time of the application 2,296 square feet is what went along with the original application to put the addition on the house. And it was all on the plot plan. Most of it is pictured on the plot plan of what I wanted. And I do believe that the square footage for 2/3 of an acre is 29,040 feet, somewhere around there. So at 15%, I don't think the 2296 meets that.
Yeah, it's not really for us to make a decision as to,
No, I'm just saying what's existing there now.
okay,
You know,
okay.
is on the original plan.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead, Tom.
When she's done.
Yep, yep.
I have a
no,
question for Chris.
go ahead.
So, Chris, the building permit for the expansion, you issued a building permit for that, right?
Yes.
Have you ever done an inspection of progress? Or Alex or whoever?
Yes, I've been to the property and done some foundation inspections. I believe we did framing inspections, plumbing, electrical, heat pumps, and insulation. That's where it stopped.
And that's the second floor
Correct.
piece.
Okay. I'm getting ready to transition on to the dock unless anybody has anything else to ask or convey with regards to the shed.
Now,
All good?
how about our audience?
Yeah, but we're not open to public
Okay.
comment yet, so we'll get that when time comes. So Sheena Joe, we'll go ahead and transition now to the right-of-way property with notice of violation of dock. Go ahead and
Okay, so my desire to have a dock at Lot 62A, which is a 10 by 200 foot lot that runs down between 31 and 35 Shore Road, across the street from my gravel parking space. My desire dates back to 2015, the people that lived there at the time, the thoughts and ideas that came into the head at the time. The biggest opposition we ran into was this big boulder sitting in the water at the end of it. So as construction progressed and did not progress due to the mass construction projects that were done at the end of the road during the last 2 years, my ideas went into effect. 31 Shore Road got sold, 35 Shore Road got sold. I had some objections to both those owners to my ideas, and proceeded to get told that there were 10 owners. I had to clear it through the town with permission slips from all 10 owners that I could do this. I didn't believe there were 10 owners, so I proceeded to do title searches on all the homes from number 2 Shore Road all the way down to number 39 Shore Road. I have title searches to every piece of property on Shore Road in Raymond, Maine. Analyzing those title searches showed me who had rights to the boat launch at 22A, who had rights to 46A, which is another right-of-way that sits just before number 9 Shore Road, and who had rights to 62A, which is the one across the street from me. My findings showed that the titled rights to 62A belong to 4 people. I should say not 4 people. Well, 4 people own the 7 lots that it was given right to in its development. The lots that have rights to it are 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, and 103 respectfully are the back lots of Shore Road on the other side of the road, the back lots. So I myself own lot 99 and 100. Jonathan Stickney, my owner, who has a recent home built up on the hill, he owns lots 101, 102, and 103. Each one of those lots have their own individual rights to 62A. The title search was clear that each lot sold had its own particular right to 62A and 22A. So, and then you have lot 98, which is owned by Ellis Martins, and lot 97, which is owned by the 27 Shore Road LLC, the Reale family. And those are single individual lots. that they keep their sheds on and park their boats and do whatever. Those 5 lots that are owned by me and Jonathan were wooded for ever. You know, and in 2015, I bought my lot, and I believe Jonathan was able to get his 3 lots in 2018. I think it was 2018 that he got them, or 19. So now you have two homeowners that live there year-round that wanted access to the water through their deeded right. And we're being told they couldn't do that, that we had no right to, we were trespassing. You know, that was their property by the new owners of 31 Shore Road. And up until recently, it was brought to my attention that 35 Shore Road felt they had a deeded right. Upon finding that information out, I did in detail take their title search and note it and sent them a copy of that through the mail, which was delivered on the 20th of September, showing them their complete title search. It was a 21-page title search. I think you have it attached to all your documents that you can certainly show your town attorney. That does not show any rights. Any rights that were ever belonged to 35 were sold off when lots 99 and 100 were sold off. They went with those lots. They didn't stay with 63, 64, 65, I think their lot numbers are. So upon everything that I found, it got to the point where we couldn't use the right-of-way at all during the summer. There was construction materials, trucks parked, people building materials. So for the last 2 summers, it's been unavailable for use anyway, because it's always loaded up with building materials from 31 Shore Road, or their trucks, or their men doing their work, or it was just very uncomfortable to even try to go down there. So I left the project on hold. So this past spring in March, I started cleaning the property. Spoke to Alex several times about the dying trees that were placed there from number 35 at the time, which was Debbie Mosier. Her late live-in had planted trees along the property line of 62, lot 62A and 35 Shore Road for privacy in their front yard. And we were out there one day, and after a survey got done, because I've had 3 surveys done to that line alone. The first 2 of the pins were removed, they disappear. So then this last survey, the surveyor actually put deeded pins in the ground with numbers on them. It said if anybody removes them, then they're breaking the law, because they just kept disappearing. So we found that the trees were planted on the inside of the right-of-way. So Debbie didn't have any problem removing those trees, so she had them lopped off at the top, so they would stunt their growth. And then as soon as I started working on my project, I could remove them. Well, in the meantime, Debbie sold her property to Lisa Martin. And once again, they wanted everything to stay the same. In my title searches, I found that out of the 4 owners, the 2 that have waterfronts, which are Alice Martin and Lisa Martin, those particular lots, those waterfront lots, do not have deeded rights to the right-of-way. It's their back lots that have the deeded right. So you have 2 full-time homeowners there that are being told by these people that have waterfront property, 100 feet. They have their own beaches, they have their own water, they have their own lawns, they have everything. I'm not keeping them from doing anything, but they're not allowing me to enter the water without conflict. So my research showed me that 62A has markers. They're all pinned off. The Martins did their side, I did the other side. From 62A, at the end of that lot, it goes to what's called the shoreland, which extends out into the water. It's my understanding that the town has control up to the high water mark, which includes a lot of that shoreland. And then beyond the shoreland, you have this big boulder. It's like 8 feet wide, probably 6 feet tall, kind of flat and awkward at the top, but you could get out on it. You couldn't get in the water in it because they tell you to jump off it, but there's only like 18 inches to 24 inches of water at the bottom of it. But the rock does sit in water 365 days out of the year, and it's beyond the low water mark. So I did some more research, as far as who owns the water. Thomas Pond is owned by the state. The rock sits in the water. The rock's owned by the state. And I don't find that the town has any jurisdiction over where I placed that structure for me to be able to, and for Jonathan to be able to, enjoy a deeded right to the water. It's not keeping anybody from doing anything. And that's the question here. Who owns Thomas Pond, and what am I doing that's keeping any of the owners from doing anything? It's not obstructing anything that they do on the right-of-way. They don't use the right-of-way. They use it to cross back and forth between their yards, which is their right. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with anybody being on it. But I'm being told I couldn't have the structure in the water. You know, they called the warden service on me. The Ellis Martins called the warden service on me. You know, he showed up on Monday morning when town was closed. He comes over and he says, well, I don't see where you've done anything wrong there. I told him the lake belongs to, you know, they don't own the lake. The lake belongs to the state. Nobody owns the lake. And the town can only control what goes to the high water mark. And sure, you don't have a harbor master that can be out there policing what's going on the lake, you know, and that leaves a lot of the policing to the town. But I don't feel that my structure that I put past low water mark, it's got 10-foot posts on it, so it's not attached to anything. It's a standalone 4x4 with a ladder to it, with a galley plank float and a 6x16 float after that. It's used for kayak. I didn't even put the paddle boat in. There was so much conflict about it this year. For the kayaks, the paddle boats, you know, whatever me and Jonathan decide to use. So I just don't understand why I needed a permit to put a structure out on a state water that the town doesn't have any jurisdiction over. And that's it in a nutshell, but with all the other stuff that's been brought up, you've had the pleasure of reading, you know, all the things that go from side to side every time something's brought up. I have to respond to that, even though it's not related to the simple fact is who owns Thomas Pond, and did I have a right to put that structure there past low water? And the markings are clear on all the rocks. You know, the rock's in the water 365 days out of the year. You can't move the rock. And we don't have the convenience of all the other right-of-ways that are in the neighborhood, including the boat dock, of where the ground goes directly down into the water and it's easy to walk down in. I'm a 65-year-old woman. I'm not going to have my neighbor telling me to jump off the rock or fall through the tree. And that's what I got. You know, and they've done everything that they could to deter me from using it. You know, but they recently put up this beautiful cedar fence. I think it's beautiful. But if they use it so much and it's so important to them, why did they just block it all off? You know, nothing makes sense to me. The whole thing doesn't make sense to me. I have the right to that water through my deed. You know, I tried to work it out. I spoke with Alex many times of building a little 2-foot walkway that goes down the shore where the birch tree is. You all saw the birch tree. I had to take the limbs off 2 of it because the wind broke the limbs in half. Those had to come down. A very dangerous situation down there. So I left most of the tree there so you could see it, but early in the spring and March, I cut off 2 smaller limbs that were scooting across and had dropped. You couldn't even get under the limb to get into the water. You know, and your comprehensive plan tells people that, you know, when you have areas like this, and you have problem areas of getting your access to the water, that the town, you know, would cordially like to help people like that. And I'm not getting any help. Just getting a bunch of conflict. And then getting a notice of violation that I put the dock in the water without a permit. I didn't need a permit. It's on state property. I truly don't think I need a permit for that dock sitting in the water. It's not attached to anything.
I had a question for you.
Sure.
So you mentioned Jonathan Stickney. Is he a co-owner of the dock?
Me and Jonathan both own the dock, yes.
Okay. I'm just wondering, is there a representative for Jonathan here tonight other than yourself? I mean,
Just me.
okay. In some of the pictures that you submitted, I noticed that there was a private property sign strung across the front of the dock. Specifically, who is allowed to use the dock?
I put the private property sign up across it when the dock first went into the water, because one thing that the state warden brought to my attention, he said, everything looks fine. He said, I would worry more about your safety coming off that rock onto your dock, because there's a little space. There was a little space there. So his recommendation was come up with some sort of a gap. something to close that space off. I told him, I said, I can't attach it to anything. It's on 6-foot steel posts as it is, 10-foot steel post as it is. So I put it up there so nobody would step down on it. I had the ladder chained off and the walkway chained off. But I needed to have a railing, some form of a railing that could come up over. You saw that. I have injuries from past work that I'm not very stable when I'm going down or up, so I needed a handle. So we had the custom, but in the meantime, I put that there so that nobody would get onto it until I could cover the gap and put the railing on. All right? When we got the railing on and we covered the gap, it's still sitting there, chained to the, but it's not blocking it from doing anything. And it does state right on the back of the sign, who owns it, 32 and 34 Shore Road. Who owns that structure? Just like I put it on my mooring balls. Who owns the mooring, what number belongs to the mooring balls? If I had anything else there, I would probably have my address on it too, because if something happened, they need to know who owns the floating apparatus.
So I recognize your statement of you and Jonathan owning the dock. Who is permitted to use the dock? Are the people who have right-of-way access?
They have rights to the right-of-way.
Well, no, okay.
They have rights to the land.
Please give me a chance to
Okay.
answer this question. What I want to know is, do these people also have your permission to use that dock? Or is it specifically for you and Jonathan and whoever?
I guess that question can go both ways. Do I have permission to go out on their floating docks?
So that's not answering my question. Is it only you or Jonathan and people that you have agreed to that are allowed to use that? Or can people who have access to the right-of-way also use that dock? Is it a simple yes or no? Can other people use that dock who have that?
The structure was put in there for the use of me and Jonathan.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a copy of the actual deed and what the right-of-way actually grants?
It's listed in all our deeds that have the right to 62A.
But what specifically does the deed allow? Does the deed, what?
It tells you that you cross over the shore land to the shore.
Can you point that out for me, please?
I can't remember which one I attached my deed to. But it says the same verbiage is on all of them, along with the, let's see if I can find it. Swan to Gillespie. It's conveyed together with the right-of-way.
Is your lot 100?
Yes.
I can see it there.
Is it the vague one that says together with all?
I'm not sure.
Together with all rights of way of record?
This might be it here. This is lot one.
I gotcha. So Joe, the one he's looking at, it's labeled at the top. It says Swan to Gillespie.
Right, Swan to
100,
Gillespie, 100.
Corrected from
yeah.
developer.
Says the above described premises are conveyed together with the right-of-way to and from the premises over Shore Road and Libby Road to the Meadow Road, so-called, and also a right to the Shore Road over Lot 62A, Section 3, Lot 22A, Sheet 1, Section 1. That's the 22A is the boat dock, and 62A is the lot. Most of them say you have the right to cross over 62A from Shore Road to the shoreland.
It's this one.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred. Do anybody have any questions for Sheena Joe at this point?
I don't at this point.
Yes.
Ryan, as owner to this property, this right-of-way, if you'd like an opportunity to speak specifically to this dock situation, you can certainly take some time to do that right now.
Yeah, I'll make it fairly brief. So Sheena and myself, we've never actually had a conversation. So, and I know my wife did not. We came up to camp and the dock was there. We weren't really sure what was going on. As far as our comment about blocking the right-of-way, that has been open. I mowed it all last year. I'm not sure what that is. The grade stakes, I guess those are the pins. They've been in the middle since the spring. I think multiple people have rights to this property. I guess that's probably my biggest sticking point. It's not that anybody's trying to keep her away from the water, but I know she did the title search. She sent it to us in the mail. It seems like it was not an official title search, but one that she did in town hall. But multiple people have rights, and it doesn't seem like she went through the right channels to see if it was even okay with everybody that had those rights. It's her comment about the mooring balls. Those are both directly out, kind of following the line of property out in the ocean, which is, again, or the lake, which is weird. The fence that she brought up for Dennis, basically, she's been taking pictures of our people at our house doing work, taking pictures of Dennis, his construction. I think he was just not speaking for him, but I'm pretty sure it was just trying to get some privacy without somebody peeking at him. The dock, when it got installed, there was a big no trespassing sign. Again, didn't have a conversation. I'm not going there for conflict, but it was clearly stated that it was, don't go there, not allowed. Other than that, again, we just believe that there's probably multiple people that should have access, and if there's a dock, it should be everybody's right. At this point, what's to say if this goes okay, if someone else has property rights, that they can't put a dock there next year, and then Sheena can't have hers. So it doesn't really make sense to me. But that's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Anybody have questions for Ryan? Okay.
No.
Chris?
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Ryan's right. We've never met. I've had 2 conversations with Lisa. First of all, it's been no secret that I've wanted this dog. I went looking for the Reale family, who owns 27 Shore Road LLC, because they were one of the owners right off the bat. And my findings found that estate was left to 8 children. One of the children left his shares to his 3 children. It's just a big family thing there. And in the letters that I sent them, I gave them descriptions of what I was looking to do with the right-of-way, as them being one of the owners. And one of the paragraphs in those descriptions is stating that I would have no problem with them adding kind-like parcels, kind-like sections to this dock if they wanted a place to bring their kayaks or their paddle boats. It's in the letters. I offered that right from the beginning when I started contacting the owners. And Lisa, my last conversation I had with her, she thought about the kids fishing off that rock, and I can see why there's probably better fishing, because it's out in the water. The rock is in the water. And I told her I would have no problem with her kids fishing off my dock. They'll put the ladder on that side, and there was that side for once, the only reason. Me and Jonathan had a conversation and said kids are going to be kids. Lisa's got kids. We've never had kids down here, but Lisa has kids. And he said, you're right. So I have no problem with Lisa's children being on that dock. If I have no problem with people adding kind-like pieces to it. You know, if they want to take, I wouldn't want anybody taking a slab of wooden dock and adding it to the thousands of dollars we just spent on the one that's there. But the offer was made. And I finally got through to the Reales after several attempts and a home visit to where I found one of the Reales living in Portland. I actually went to his house and left him a letter inside his fence. And then I reached out to their LLC attorney. And that's how I found out the information regarding them and reached out to them. They chose to abstain from any comments or any involvement. They just wanted the lot to be left the way it was, and it is. I haven't touched the lot. I merely put a dock in the water. So I haven't touched it. The only thing I've done is I took a few dead branches down with kids running back and forth from yard to yard. I was worried about the eyes, the hair. So I took some more dead branches off. I took photocopies of all of those. As far as for privacy, you can't say much for the 8 cameras that the Martins have up all around that right away. So we'll just leave that question right alone. But no, right from the beginning, I've always offered. You know, that was my thoughts, that were my ideas, that's what went out. That's what I'd spoke to Glenn Martin about previous to him selling it to his brother Dennis and his then girlfriend Teresa Ellis. And that's all I have to say about that.
So I want to make clear, and I may have misstated my question earlier. It sounds like you're saying then that if deeded owners to this right-of-way would like to have access to that dock or even modify the dock, you and Jonathan are willing to allow that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that.
Okay, because it sounded like earlier that you were saying it was specifically for...
What is there right now was purchased by me and Jonathan.
Oh, that I understand. Yeah.
Okay, so for instance, if one of the owners say, well, you know, I want a 6x16 foot float out there to bring my kayak and my paddle boat or my little fishing boat up to, go ahead. Just, I'm asking it to be kind-like, though.
Okay.
I'm not asking to create a hodgepodge of docks out there. I'm asking it to be kind-like.
I'm just trying to understand your vision for
Right.
for this and who...
But to that, I add that 2 of the owners, they have waterfront property. They take their boats right off their lawns, in and out on their lawns. They have their own private beaches. I'm not over there in the low water of a beach sitting my butt down and saying, oh, well, you know, I got the right to sit in the low water of the beach. You know, I'm respecting other people's premises. And as far as the moorings being out there, I situated it so after the dock is centered right in the rock, and then the 2 mooring balls for Jonathan and I are at a slight angle, approximately 10 feet from the end of the dock, this way and that way, far enough out where the rest of the moorings are. So I don't see where that is a problem.
Okay. Chris?
All right. So, first of all, I would like to speak to the fact that you've been told that she was told by a game warden that this lake, Thomas Pond, is owned by the state. The waters of Maine are owned by the state. However, there are overlapping jurisdictions. The town has been charged by the Shoreline Zoning Ordinance to issue permits for docks, pier, and wharfs over and below the water line. That's in
High
our
water.
ordinance. In section Article 5, land uses, we have a key to table 350 5-4, which is a table of uses. In that table, in LLR1, which Thomas Pond is in LLR1, on page 17, page 2 out of 4 of that section 350, it says, I'll read it to you so you don't all have to look it up. It says temporary docks can be issued by the CEO with an asterisk 7, which says excluding bridges and other crossings. So docks are a permitted use by the CEO, and then the table to one, where it says CEO at the very beginning, says allowed with a permit issued by the code enforcement officer. So anybody who puts a dock in, not a floating float that goes out 20 or 30 feet offshore, that's anchored to the bottom with no access from the shore, is different. That is something that a game warden or somebody from the state may have concerns with if it interferes with navigation or somebody's use of their property. But anything that is on stanchions, 10-foot poles for a dock, are permitted by the CEO. And anything attached to that platform via a platform to a floating dock is also permitted by the CEO. We didn't get a permit. We talked about getting a permit many times in the office with Alex. I was present at a couple of these meetings, and she was instructed that if she was to apply for a permit, she would need the permission of all the property owners that have deeded right-of-ways to that right-of-way, which says access to the lake. It doesn't say everybody in that, any of the back lots or any other owner has the right to a dock. It says access to the lake. So now we get to, so that's what I do, is we issue permits. I bet we have 2,000 docks in Raymond. All of them are permitted by the town unless they were grandfathered. In other words, they were existing before we required permits for docks, which was around 1986. So there was never a dock, to my knowledge, in that right-of-way. There's no grandfathering of a dock. If somebody wants to put a dock in the right-of-way, I have no problem, my office has no problem, as long as everybody agrees to it, and it's, as David was alluding to, it's for common access, not a private dock. This appears to be a private dock without a permit. So in her presentation, she mentioned several times that she did title work, right? Mm-hmm. And she included in your packet deeds. Are you a title attorney?
It doesn't take a title attorney to do a title search.
Are
I'm an
you a
educated-
title attorney?
I am not an attorney, but I am an educated person. I can run it.
I didn't say anything about whether
I'm not
you're
a title
educated or
attorney.
not. She's not a title attorney. I want to point out a couple of things. One, in your packet, there is an opinion from a title attorney. Curtis Thaxter is a title attorney firm. One of their attorneys wrote you guys an opinion which was in response to her title opinion that was sent to the Martins. The Martins hired a title attorney. And if you read his title opinion, it says that other people have a right to that right-of-way. And if anybody is to use that right-of-way, you need permission, A, to cut trees, trim trees, do anything in that right-of-way, even stairs to the water. You need everybody's sign-off. So that's what Alex and I have been telling her since she ever asked about a dock. In her letter of September 13th, 2024, she says in paragraph 4 on the first page, does the town of Raymond have jurisdiction over the waters of Thomas Pond? I believe it is state property. For the record, I never told anyone I have a dock permit. So A, she admits she doesn't have a dock permit. 2, she claims that we don't have a jurisdiction. Well, I beg to differ with you, and if I didn't permit docks, I'd be in trouble with the Department of Environmental Protection, who wrote these ordinances for us to adopt. It's in Chapter 350, Shoreline Zoning. Very, very simple. The second thing she said is, I said I didn't believe in a court of law that one person could keep me from safe passage to my waters via a deeded rights. What she's saying is, she knew that one person that has deeded rights to that right-of-way is going to say no. And I know who that person is. That's Teresa Ellis and Eric Martin. The reason they would say no is, she's correct. They have a lot that abuts the lake. They have 100 feet. She's correct. but they also have a back lot, and that back lot has a deeded right to use that right-of-way. And then they're not going to sign off. They don't want it to change. There's another comment in there from another person, same thing. They're not going to sign off. So she knew she couldn't get the signatures required to get a permit. So she installed it anyway. She admits that she and Mr. Stickney own the dock. She believes it's outside of the town's jurisdiction in the last page of her letter. And then she says, the Zoning Board of Appeals has one question to answer: who has jurisdiction over Thomas Pond beyond the low water mark? Well, you know what? This isn't the ocean. We don't have a huge ebb and flow of water. A lot of our measurements are taken from the high water mark, but a person in Raymond owns to the water line. It doesn't matter whether it's high water or low water. It's not a tidal water like the state has issues with Wells Beach, for instance, and the people walking and using the beach in front of somebody's property. That's a tidal low water mark. We're not talking tidal. We're talking seasonal low water. This is a dammed lake. It has a flow out of Thomas Pond, goes into Sebago Lake, which is dammed. Many of our, almost all of our ponds are that way. It's regulated by a dam. So she needs a permit. I'm not opposed to issuing a permit, but she needs the permissions of all the people. And I would need a letter from a title attorney that says she has all the signatures of everybody in that right-of-way. We've dealt with this issue over and over in Raymond. We've had court cases that went on for 8 years about right-of-ways. And it's always the same answer. If you read Curtis Thaxter or Jason from Curtis Thaxter's response in his letter, it says it gives you access to the water. She has access to the water. It may not be the best access in the world. I look at right-of-ways all the time. Some of them are brooks because when they divided up the property, there was a little land left over, and they didn't think anybody had ever used it, so they just put it as a right-of-way to the lake. Looks great. Can't use it because it's in the middle of a brook. Other times it's rocky, sometimes it's wooded, sometimes it's steep, sometimes it's easy to go in. Like she said, she has access to another area which is inconvenient for her, which is at the beginning of Shore Road. Typically, those right-of-ways go with the road and all other roads in that subdivision. When these subdivisions were laid out, they included language that allowed the backlots to have access to the lake through these right-of-ways. And that's what I believe she has a right to the lake. I'm not arguing that a bit. But she doesn't have the right to install a dock without a permit.
In regards to needing the permission of all property owners, is there a ordinance or statute that speaks to that?
No.
Okay.
It's just court case and state law, and that's our policy. If you want to do a dock in your own property, it's much easier. You don't need all that. But if you have a right-of-way, I live in Haskell Avenue subdivision, another one that was done by Swan. I have a 20-foot right-of-way across the street from me. I have several other right-of-ways. Tom has right-of-ways, and he has waterfront property, but he can come down and use my right-of-way. As a matter of fact, he does. Just the way it is.
For in our ordinances for shoreland, for piers, the 350-6.4, I just want to get your feedback on this. It says piers, docks, wharves, bridges, and other structures or uses. This is what I need the feedback on. Extending over or below the normal high water line of water bodies or within wetlands. When we talk about extending over or below normal high water line, how do you interpret that based on
Well,
what's
the dock itself is over the water. The stanchions go down to the bottom of the lake to support the structure. And I use that word structure because that's the definition of a structure. If it's attached to land, it's not floating. It's attached to the shore. Whether it's physically attached to the rock, doesn't matter. You can step over the rock to the dock, or you could put a plank to get to the dock. You have access from the shore. So our ordinance allows those docks to be above and below. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and
And the other thing is permanent docks, obviously, are below and they stick above. This is a temporary dock. It has to come out at the end of the season, December 1st. Comes out, gets stored, and can go back in. But it's attached to the bottom of the lake, which is our jurisdiction.
except for reference to the low water mark, and I heard your explanation about tidal,
Yeah.
low water, high. Just wondering, just wanted to get your feedback in regards to the low water mark comments that have been made with how this may, I just see extending over or below the normal high water line. This feels like it would be doing that even if we're making reference to a low water line. I guess that's what I'm trying to
That's
reconcile.
correct. And the other thing is the boulder that she refers to with water staining. Water staining is when the water's high, it'll stain the rocks, and you can tell how high the water comes up. That boulder is embedded in the shore. It may extend into the lake, and at times it has part of it underwater. I agree. If this was a rock in the middle of the lake with no access to the shore or not touching the shore, that would be different, but it's not. That answer your question?
So it's part of the shoreline.
It's part of the shoreline, absolutely. That you walk to the rock, you don't have to jump to the rock.
Guys have any questions for Chris?
No.
Tom?
And we're agreed that the dock, when it does get removed, can't be stored on the right-of-way.
Correct.
Good.
Do you have anything to say with regards to?
Well, yeah, I do have a few things to say. I think we're missing the point here between the high water and the low water. The rock is in the water 365 days out of the year. If it's in the water 365 days out of the year, it's considered water body by the description set forth by the state. Low water is what you find and markings on rocks and on the land. You can even see it on the shoreland. If you got to the front of the rock and you look back underneath the shoreland on both sides of it, you can see the high water marks. You can see the low water marks. They do regulate the lake. The water is way too low to jump off a rock into the water. But that part that hits the shore is about as wide as this podium that you have to step up on from the shoreline. The pictures are very clear on that. That shows you how past the shoreline this rock sits. It's not embedded in the shoreline. It may be up against it. One of the attorneys had mentioned at one time that we were consulting with that it looks like somebody might have put that rock there to stabilize that shoreline because where we got into deep water on that end of the lake. You know, could it be removed? Why would I want to remove it? You know, I don't mind going over it, but I disagree with it being part of the shoreland. You know, the markings on the shoreland and the markings on the rocks are clear where the water is when it's high, when the dam's not out, and where it is when it's low. And it's been like that. I've been there for 9 years. There's been no change in that.
Do you have any examples of state law or anything which shows that installation of something within a body of water?
I know there are a few
is
cases that have
permissible?
been to the Supreme Court over this. I do not have them noted because from here, this packet will go to the attorney from here. I'm doing my due diligence.
So you don't have it.
You know, that would be something that would be on the attorney's level to bring up, just like Curtis Baxter, or, you know, that went to the attorney that will be handling this after this hearing. And, you know, that was just a bunch of, you know, I looked at it as just a threat. You know, I had no dock in the water at that time. He's telling me kids fish off it all the time and people jump off it all the time. Well, I don't know where he lives, but I know I've been living there for I've been there for 9 years working on this project, and I've never seen a kid jump off it, and I've never seen a kid fish off it. You know, I even talked to a couple of the neighbor kids that grew up there, that used to go down there and fish with Glenn out off his beach. Yeah, we'd go up on that rock and throw a couple lines out. I've had my family do it. But he said, nobody would ever jump off that. It's not deep enough. It's all rocked. So that was just, but once again, you hire an attorney, you give him the information you want him to have, but that doesn't mean he gets all the information he needs to know. And they write a letter. And if he was so inclined to be so involved, then I would have heard more from him. I waited for that. And all I did was still get a lot of rebuttal from 31 Shore Road. It's I got one owner that does not want me walking down that shoreline to gain access to that water. 27 Shore Road stays neutral because, as she says, I was like this with Dennis Martin. They grew up together. I've got it in writing in a letter. She didn't want anything to do with it. Her visit from her brother that was there in the spring of 24, spring of 23, when he didn't even know there was a right-of-way down there that they owned. I watched them on Father's Day put their boats in right from their own front yard. I don't keep these other people from doing anything. I'm not stopping them from doing anything. But all this tells me is that they do not want the other two landowners that have a right to that right-of-way to be using it for their recreation of the water.
Okay.
And I'm willing to fight that as far as it needs to go.
Okay. Chris?
Just a couple quick comments. You guys all went on the site walk?
Correct.
Did you have to wade through water to get on top of the rock?
No.
Were you able to walk to the rock?
Yes.
Do you think this is high water or low water?
It's certainly above the water.
Right. I
You think it
asked the
would-
question. It's
you-
attached to the shoreline.
Right. Do you think it's ever underwater? No. So that's one. Two, if the Martins or the Morrill came to me and asked to get a dock permit, and I told them you need all the signatures of the owners, and they came in with all the signatures, right now we have a dock that would be obstructing any other dock. So her willingness to add on to the dock isn't her right. That is something that would be decided by the code enforcement officer. We probably wouldn't allow a dock with a bunch of fingers on it, 6 or 7 fingers, because then now you're talking it's like a marina. So there's a lot that goes into these. It may seem like, this is not a big deal, but it is a big deal when I have to treat everybody in town fair. Tom has a dock permit, Fred has a dock permit, Peter, I don't know if you do or not, but,
Not in Raymond.
so, what?
Not in Raymond.
Oh, I thought you said you weren't in Raymond.
No.
That wouldn't have been good. Do you have a dock permit in the town you live in?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just want everybody to play fair and have the rules the same for everybody and be consistent. That's my job. And it'll be Jason's job, or it is Jason's job. We try to be fair. And to be fair, this isn't fair because she's got a dock and the other people that have rights away don't.
Ryan, do you have any final comments for us, given all that you've heard?
At this point, not really. Again, no, I do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Sheena, Joe, anything final before I open this up to public comment?
Well, I've just, Chris speaks about how I've got a dock there and they don't. Well, they do. Right off their front lawns, right off their own beaches. They have a dock. I've got 2 property owners that have waterfront property that one has taken the lead to say no, they cannot have access to the water from the property. They fought me even when trying to climb through a branch. I ended up cutting 2 of the branches off last spring just to be able to get down into the water to put my mooring balls on cement so that when the diver came to put them out, they'd already be in the water.
Did you have a permit for the cutting?
No, I did not have a permit for the cutting. That was on your back burner.
Did
But it
you
was
apply for
obstructing, yes, I did, twice.
one?
Yeah, I got them right here.
Were they issued?
No, like I said, they were on your back burner, according to Alex. They're on Chris's back burner.
So
We're on hold for signatures from all the owners that had rights to that right-of-way, just like the dock permit.
And my research took me down on Total Avenue that said the town didn't have the jurisdiction to tell me I couldn't have that dock out there.
So not to have any disrespect to anybody involved, but let's keep any comments and questions through the chair, okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess the big question here is where does the town have the jurisdiction and where do they don't? And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and open this up to public comment. Is there anybody here tonight in this building or through our Zoom call that would like to speak in favor of this appeal? Is there anybody here tonight in this building or through our Zoom call or even through calls that would like to speak in opposition to this appeal? And is there anybody here tonight in the building or through Zoom that would like to just speak from a neutral perspective with regards to this appeal? Okay, I will go ahead and close public comment. Any final things, guys, for Sheena, Joe, or Ryan, or Chris before we go into our deliberations?
No.
Tom, you good?
I'm good.
Okay. So we'll close all this aspect of it, and the board now will go into deliberations based on what's been presented to it. So we have two things to consider tonight. We have the shed, and we also have the dock. Kind of like we did here, I'd like to approach it. Let's review the shed first, and then make a final decision on that. I think we can vote on that one separate, and then we'll vote, discuss and vote on the dock. Does that work? Okay. So, we have our notice of violation with regards to the shed. From what I am hearing, we have to consider, one, was this shed a part of the permit that was applied for in 2022? And if so, go from there. And if not, then we have to take a step further, I guess. So, given what I have seen in the permit application and the supplemental material that was provided, I do not, yes, I see a square on the plot. I do not see the word shed, but I will assume that's because it was faded, so I will give, allow for that. I do see the word shed written with a number beside it, but I didn't see anything specifically in the application indicating that there was a request for a shed. I do understand that, yes, we need permits for individual structures. I know that through our ordinances. I do not see, and again, I'm just talking from my own opinion right now, I do not see that this shed was actually a part of the 2022 permit. Now, I'm not saying that was not the intent when it was filed, but I do not see anything within the actual permit application itself indicating that the shed should have been included as part of that. Again, I'm not saying that it wasn't the intent, but I don't think that's what got conveyed in the permit. We heard from Chris that that was not what was actually permitted in the permit. So I just kind of, again, that's my own perspective of it. I just put that out there for you guys to bounce around.
I mean, can I say something?
Yeah.
I agree with what you just said, and I was a little confused. I'm going to say confused, but didn't maybe understand because it does say shed here in a couple of spots, but it doesn't really, because as talking to Chris, there's going to be a plot and a plan put together showing where it's going to go, what it's going to be built of, and whatnot. Is that correct, Chris? And that's not here, so I think anywhere on here shows any plot or plan of how this shed is gonna be put together, so I don't think it's on the permit personally. I don't think it's.
I would say that if it was on the plot plan, it would have met the setback requirements, and it would have been located, in a particular spot. And we heard at the site walk, well, I was gonna put it over here, and then I put it over there. So
Yeah, I did.
I don't believe it was ever on the plot plan, and I think that's the reason it's also not meeting the setback requirements.
And even regardless of the site walk, we heard
Right.
here tonight as well.
Yep.
Right. That's what I saw as well.
So we're in agreement then that the shed, even though perhaps intended by the applicant to be on this permit, was not an actual part of that permit, the approved permit.
I agree.
Okay. Then with that said, we have the consideration there's a notice of violation of a shed without a permit. We have no evidence then of any permits. We also have the appellant indicating that she has filed an after-the-fact permit for the shed. So it seems really we only need to address the fact that the shed was not a part of this 2022 permit.
Right.
So, any further discussion on this one, do you think? Do I have any motions? Motion to,
Make a motion that the shed was not part of the building permit and that the violation is valid.
about perhaps modify that as a motion to deny the.
No. Motion to deny the appeal.
Wait, let's
on
make sure
on
we're
the
saying
shed.
this. Let's
Yeah,
make sure
maybe.
we're saying this, right?
That's probably better words.
Did you make that motion?
I make a motion to deny the appeal concerning the shed.
Second?
Any further discussion on this before we make our vote? All those in favor of denying this appeal with regards to the notice of violation on the shed? Favored? Unanimous? I will say Sheena Joe not looking for a response right now. What I would say is this has been denied, the regards to the shed. Please definitely work with Chris to ensure that your permit's filed in the way that it needs to be filed so that you get proper response back from him, okay? So, now we need to move on to the dock. And this one, I will remind us that our ordinances specifically state when it comes to swimming emissions. Fortunately, I'm not finding it, but I will when it comes time. It's for the appellant, they have the burden of proof is on them. So in my consideration of the information I've heard tonight, again, from my own personal perspective, I do not believe there's enough burden of proof here to indicate that she is correct in the matter that a permit has not been, that a permit should not have been issued. Basically,
Not required.
not required, thank you. Number one, I do not see, I understand what was presented to us with regards to placing a structure within the waters, separate, that not physically attached to land that's above, that's not getting under the water. I understand that presentation. But I do not see anything with our ordinances, or I haven't had any state statutes presented to us, any state law, anything that indicates that installing something that is attached to land, even though underneath that, that could be considered, separate from an ordinance. I don't see that you can just go and just place anything you want in the water. 5 feet, I don't know if I can build a house in the middle of the water, without having to, I don't know. I haven't seen anything that shows me specifically that this is allowable by the state of Maine.
Right.
Have consideration too about how it's written up under ordinances, about what I just asked Chris about, where it's titled extending above and over the normal high water line. I believe that we're matching that.
As Chris mentioned that, the rock's not underwater. It doesn't go underwater.
Right.
And if you look at the picture here, she said if you look at the pictures, that's definitely a step right off the rock, right straight onto the dock. There's not showing any real gap there. And as Chris said, I think if my memory serves right, if this was like a swim dock or a float that you went down in the water and you swam to, then there would be no requirement for a permit. But where you're not walking down, getting in the water, going to however you get to that dock, whether you can walk to it or you can kayak to it or swim to it, that type of a dock would, I think, fall into the water ordinance. I think she's trying to mention, and that would be not permittable, not have to have one. But where we're walking straight from land, whether we're coming from dirt to a rock, we're going onto a temporary dock.
Which is fixed.
Which is, it's temporarily fixed because it has to be removed. I believe that this does need to have a permit.
I'm in agreement. It requires a permit, and it's needs to be temporary, needs to be removed.
Yeah.
And I also, I guess I agree that there are multiple people who have the rights to use that right of way. So I don't think Sheena is being isolated as not using the right of way. It's that she can't just place a dock in front of the right of way without permission.
And a permit.
Yes.
And a permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Permission from the other owners and a permit from Chris. Or Jason. What is issuing permits?
The tap.
So it is. I know that our ordinances speak specifically to piers and docks, 350-6. 4, I know that docks are considered structures based on our ordinance definitions. Our ordinances also require that any structure require a permit.
And Chris mentioned that in one of his talk, when he was speaking to us, that a dock is a structure, considered a structure.
Right. Yep. And it's not just his opinion; it is supported through ordinances.
Correct.
So are we in agreement that we have ordinances specifically speaking to the fact that we have docks that require permits?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do we believe that evidence has been presented here tonight that indicates that this is a pier and dock installed in such a way that it does not require a permit?
No.
Yeah, I've not seen any evidence indicating that as well. So I don't believe the burden of proof has been met.
No.
Do we have any further discussion?
I don't.
Okay. I will make a motion then to deny oh shoot. How did you say that?
Deny the appeal.
Deny the appeal with regards to this notice of violation with regards to a dock at the end of a right-of-way.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor of denying this appeal? All right, unanimous. So, Chris, I just said, you know, the zoning board of appeals is unanimous in its decision, both with regards to the shed and the dock, that your notices of violation stand, so.
Correct. So, as far as the shed goes, she's clear that she needs to apply. She has applied. I'll work with her on a plot plan and the impervious areas so that we either issue or deny a building permit for the shed. For the dock will need to be removed until she gets a permit. She has not applied for an after-the-fact permit for that. I want to remind her that every day that that violation exists, it's $100 to $2,500 per day violation as specified in our ordinance. So it needs to come out ASAP, or those fees, if we go to court, multiply daily.
Okay. Very good. I don't need to allow it, but if you'd like to say something.
Do I see Chris tomorrow on, the dock removal people haven't called, but I'll have to call them again. Do I see Chris tomorrow on that?
Any questions? Yeah, just work with the code enforcement office. Or, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, code enforcement officer communications.
Nothing to date. No other appeals that I know of. Sandy, I don't believe we have any applications.
No, Chris, we have no additional applications, but we will have to put the other matter on for
Correct.
site walk
Correct.
on October 19th and the agenda for the October 29th meeting, unless we get a resolution of it, but we have to send those out anyway.
Correct. Okay, so we'll get the site walk scheduled, send out the notices, and we'll meet back here on the 29th, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, October 29th is the board meeting. And I will work on those notices tomorrow.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. And board, I sent an email, but just a reminder, as a Board of Appeals, we have responsibility to bring any items in the ordinances which we feel should be reviewed and perhaps improved or clarified, especially from the things that we have to work with. So I know Tom has given me something. If you have anything, go ahead and please email it to me. I'm gonna sort of collect it all together and get it sent to Sandy. Sandy will then present it to the planning board, and then the planning board will use that to make decisions about ordinance changes for the public to vote on. So, all right. All right, if that's not it, I will make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
We have
Second. Tom will second. All those,
this question.
yeah.
I know usually we talk about if there's she has how many days to appeal, to go to the court and all that stuff. Do we either say that, or are we all set with that?
That's a good question. Sandy?
Yes.
Fred's bringing up a good point. I will I know I need to get the decision written up and presented to you within X
Correct.
number of days. Can you confirm for everybody here what that X number of days is? How many days do I have?
I think I need that from you within like 7 days.
Yep.
Then you all have to sign it, and I can then email it to Sheena Joe so she has it, and then she has 45 days from the date of tonight to appeal.
That's correct, Sandy.
Okay?
Okay, I'll make sure to get that to you.
I'm sure you will, David. Thank you.
I will. Good point, Fred. Thank you. So we've had our motion to adjourn. We've had the seconds. Any other comments? All those in favor of adjourning? We're out. Thank you, folks.